The first question I started asking myself is, if I love myself, what would I do? If you put the word if in front of the question, then it takes away all the pressure. It's theoretical. If I love myself, what would I do? So you start making better choices. There's this part of you that wants that, right? But you got to change inside first.
Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael Sandler, your host on Inspire Nation. If you've ever wanted to welcome in magic into your life and feel better about your life, then do we have the Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It show for you. Today I'll be talking with Kamal Ravikant, self-published phenom, poet, entrepreneur, and investor, and one of my all-time favorite guests I've had on the show. He was also the first. He's also the author of one of the most beautiful, brilliant, and important reads out there today, Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It. And that's just what I want to talk with him about today, about one simple practice and 4 simple steps that can completely transform your life. That plus we'll talk about living like you've died, why being depressed is a good day, Coca-Cola signs and Market Street, a meadow, a lighthouse, and Pescadero, gotcha, 2 last leaves and an open heart, and what in the world rubber snakes and Jesus have to do with anything. So welcome back to the show, my brother. Are you ready to shine?
Man, you have me curious now what we're going to talk about. It's good to be here, man. And it's amazing. I was your first episode. And now you're in 1200s. That's amazing. That's just absolutely, it's like people ask, what's the secret to success? And I tell them most often, it's just persistence. You keep at it, you keep getting better at your craft, whatever your craft is. And then one day you have instant success, and this is episode 1200. That just blows my mind. So I'm very happy to be back.
And I'm so happy to have you here. And it's kind of a completion of a circle. We don't go off the air or anything, far from it. We're doing even more in 2020, but we're having a bit of a format change. And I said, I want the giants on the show for 2020. And I'm like, I want Kamal Ravikant back. We hadn't asked you. When your publisher or publicist then reached out to us. And I'm like,
Man,
are you
awesome.
kidding me?
That's awesome. That is awesome.
So on that note, talking about awesome is you are here with us today. What in the world happened to you 2 months ago?
I was basically almost dead on an operating table where they were literally emergency to save my life. I'd had elective surgery to fix a old injury, being an active guy, that happens sometimes. And I had injuries to some blood vessels that they were fixing. And the next morning, one of the blood vessel that it fixed, there was too much blood going into too fast. It burst and at the stitches, and it burst so hard, so bad that the blood pooled out of my body and then caused a whole tunnel through and burst out of my body. And I was literally spraying blood everywhere, and the only thing that saved me was the fact I hadn't walked out of the hospital yet. They said if I had, that would have been it. In an Uber at home, even if they would have taken me in emergency, it would have been too late. The fact they caught me right there, and they rushed me off to an emergency surgery, and I remember the surgeon. I managed to somehow stay awake, and because you're losing blood fast, and you're getting the whole.
What's going through your mind?
Horror. It's a little horror. A brain's not designed to see blood spray out of us. It's basically a battlefield wound. When you're spraying blood out and from an artery. So that's a one-way street. That's hard, fast. And the fact it's got so much pressure that it'll burst out of your body, it kind of gives you an idea. And just horror. And I managed to hang on until the surgeon came in, and I told her that she was the one one of the surgeons operated me 12 hours earlier. And I said, don't just fix this. Like, I want you to fix what you fixed. Don't make me have gone through this for nothing. Fix what you fixed before. Find another way. She's like, okay, I'll even do it better. Right. And that actually allowed me to let go. But it was actually literally pure primal thoughts. Like especially when you're getting the tunneling vision and close to blacking out from the loss of blood. And there's literally, I'm in the OR, and there's panic, mayhem. And there's someone pressing down, trying to slow down the spray of blood. They're quickly getting things together. Anesthesiologist comes talking to me, and it was just pure primal. It's nothing. There was nothing gentle. It's not like you're going in your sleep. It was literally like your brain's like, I'm going. It was and then you start seeing images in your head. just thoughts, feelings, images, and pure emotions of like horror and love and regret and this and the things that are just flashing by. And I remember grabbing the anesthesiologist's hand and saying to her, like, I'm afraid. No, I said, I'm scared. It was like, I remember feeling a level of fear I've never felt in my life before. Because something in my brain kicked in again and said, what a messy, shitty way to go. And really, because this actually, something you should realize is my body can't handle this. And that part doesn't know that there's like, a surgery about to happen to try to stop this. And she held my hand. And I remember her hand there, and it was so soft, and something made me relax. And that's when I just kind of like, they hadn't put anything in me as it wasn't anesthesia. And because she was telling me what she was going to do, I don't know why, they had my permission. And something we said, okay, if this is it, this is it. And in that moment, I literally just accepted it. And I remember falling back into the bed because I was literally almost trying to sit up and blacking out. It was almost like falling backwards into like darkness and like dark water slowly and just blacking out. So that's what happened.
First off, wow.
Yeah.
Secondly, my brother, you aren't done with this. Meaning, I'm going to ask you a question that I need to have you back on and ask 6 months, a year, several years down the road, because you haven't even had the opportunity to process yet. It is way too soon. How did that, they talk about satori, I think is the Japanese term, an instant awakening, an instant shift. When you came to, or over the last couple months, how have you changed?
Well, it's very interesting. A month before that, this experience, I actually had an awakening, which is something I've never sought awakening. I just want to be a better version of myself, right? So I work on my mind a lot, which ultimately, even the book, it's about working on your mind and your heart from the inside. I was in Nepal in a place called Mustang Valley, which is where Buddhism traveled through India into Nepal, into Tibet. And so it's near the border of Tibet, studying with these Tibetan mystic monks that have never taught outsiders their practice of awakening. And it was a 9-day thing, just hardcore with them. And I got to taste it. I got to taste what awakening was like, for seconds at a time. Yeah. And it was like when your self dissipates, and underneath is just this foundation of love. And also self-compassion, just compassion, because that compassion arises from love anyway, So I got to taste that. And a month later, I got to taste a very different, very visceral, very primal, very not fun way. But, it was a complete surrender. Mm-hmm. I had to surrender. It was like when you're realizing what a messy way to go. And then there's all these, people in scrubs and masks rushing around because they weren't expecting to do this surgery. This OR just happened to be open, and another patient they just pulled that patient out, then operated on, brought me right in because it was save this guy's life. Like, we got to pull him in now. And so you're seeing all these flashes. And so I won't say there was an awakening there. There was a surrender. Mm-hmm. Coming to, the next thing was when I came to, I was like, did you fix it? Like, my thing was, don't make me go through this for nothing. Yeah. Like, they're like,
this is not a third time's a charm.
Yeah. I'm not coming back to see you guys, right? They're like, yeah, we fixed it. We made it even better. I'm like, all right, then I'll get through this. Yeah. It was hard. I've never spent much time in a hospital as a patient. I'm not a good patient. I'm very active. I spent we're a week as a patient in the hospital, which is, you're very helpless, you're very vulnerable. Any sense of decency or privacy is gone. And one thing I did was, I was telling my brother about this. I made a decision very early on in there that instead of focusing on my pain, I was in an insane amount of pain. I was on heavy duty narcotics, but still through that, I was in an insane amount of pain. I was like, instead of focusing on me, anytime someone comes in, a nurse, an orderly, anyone, I'm going to make them feel good about themselves. And it's a decision I made, and that actually helped my mindset a lot because it took me out of my own self. And sometimes it was hard because you're dealing with in nursing, because in a big hospital, nurses come and go. You meet some that are amazing. You're like, wow, you're like a lifesaver. Then you meet some, you're like, I should sue you. Like they were just clocking in, and it's like you're doing, you're getting in their way of their sleep or whatever, like, so you have to deal with all that. Yet through all that, I was like, okay, how do I make this person feel better about themselves, or feel good about themselves? And I succeeded about 80% of the time. And that took my mind off me, and then outside of that, I wrote through the pain. I was on my phone and I was actually writing little things about the experience, about the fundamental, because fundamentally I'm a writer, right? So I was writing like the truth of the experience. I ended up posting on social media. I'm like, look, one thing I do is I write the truth. Whether it's good, I'm going through something good, or whether I'm going through something bad, I'm going to write the truth and show you what happened and how I got through it. And so I was actually writing and posting, these missives on Instagram. And so the awakening, it's interesting. You kind of walk around like I'm finally back at the gym again. I can't lift heavy. Maybe I could, but I'm not allowed to.
Yeah.
So I'm doing very light, very controlled. But man, you feel grateful. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of gratitude. There is sometimes you get stuck in why did this happen? But I shift very quickly out of that. Because that puts me in victim mode, and I hate that, being in that place. I've actually been working this personal philosophy that I don't really talk about. But fundamentally it is that I'm responsible for everything in my life, everything that happens. Because when that happens, I can't blame anyone. I'm not sitting there blaming the doctors. I'm not sitting there blaming the nurses. They did the best they could. The body is a complicated, really complicated thing. And then they saved me, right? So, and then they fixed what broke. Right? So everything, I'm like, okay, I'm responsible for this. Somehow in my life, everything that I create, it's almost like from the inside out, I'm responsible. So what do I do? How do I actually get better from this? So it like shifts my mind away from like blame and feeling sorry for myself, which the mind goes there sometimes, man. I still catch myself going there throughout the day, and I catch it and I shift to, okay, how do I use this to get better? Right? How do I make this to get better? And I remind myself, look, they fixed what I originally went for. And I went for a reason, and they fixed it. It was important to me. But I'm really working on that. And this experience was a hell of a test, and sometimes when you go through tests and you're working on a personal philosophy way of being, you really get to grind it in. My mindset has been, so maybe ask me 6 months what the Satori was. I'm still more in a practical recovering phase, I think.
You talk about a little bit in your book about things happening for a reason. And I'm sure this has really hit you on a deep soul level by this point. I believe that not only I don't believe we cause bad things. I'm going to put that in quotes, bad things to happen to us, because I don't actually necessarily believe that there are bad things. Everything is here to serve us for our growth, for our expansion. That's my personal belief. And you went into the hospital for a reason, but it was probably a lot bigger of a reason, that's my guess, than you originally thought you had signed up for. Your higher self, your intuition, your place that went there to the awakening that said you are ready for this, went into the hospital for a much bigger experience than you originally thought you went for.
I got it.
You got it, and you got it in the most beautiful way because you're still here. You're still here. You're fully functional. You will be forever changed for the better. Not that you were not good before. I mean, you were living in the hospital. I'm going to call yourself Love Yourself 2.0. Maybe it was 3.0. Yes, we have to love ourselves first, and we're going to dive into that in a minute, because if you don't put the oxygen mask on yourself first, you're useless to everybody else. But then you were getting outside of yourself. You could have been, poor me, woe is me, look at me, what the hell happened to me? I'm in so much pain, me fest. And instead you went to, let's crank up the light on the inside. Let's see what I can do to change everybody's life around me and see how I can make this a positive experience for everybody else who is here. That's huge.
Thanks, man. It's very practical. I'm a big believer in practical. What works for the inside practically, not theory, right? We all know we should do all this stuff, but that practically actually was really helped my mindset, and then every day you start to see yourself improve and you start to feel gratitude for it. I still am seeing myself improve. I'm still in a decent amount of pain every day, but the pain's lessening. Now, the pain, now if it's a sharp pain, like a hard pain, I notice it I notice it right away. But before, that was my state of being. Right. And you start to really appreciate this gratitude. One thing I've been doing is I don't want to lose this gratitude. Because we can go through these experiences, and in the moment or for a while, we're living it, but then we get lazy, we get mentally lazy. And that's actually, like, if I can, what I also talk about in the book, but the expanded version is the fact that it's like, we start to coast. This is the word I use. We coast mentally. We can't help it. And the whole thing is, I gotta work in it every day. I gotta remember this. I gotta remember this gratitude. I gotta remember this feeling of almost being blessed. Like, look, I basically died. It was really close. I had that surrender. And look, I've done plant medicine before anyone was doing it. I know that world. I've done that stuff. And you talk about ego, death, and so I've done that there. It's not the same. The real thing's different. Let's be honest. It's not the same. Look, I've done enough of it that I'm quite experienced in it. Yeah. And I'll tell you, if as an experienced person who's been on both sides now, there's a big difference. One is still somewhat theory. The other is so fierce, right? And having experienced that, I don't want to lose that feeling of what that means. And I'll tell you something I've really learned that's really important. When I came out of the hospital, so I was in an insane amount of narcotics. And the surgeon said to me, look, if anyone qualifies for narcotics, it's you. You've had 2 major back-to-back operations in 2 days, right? You've been like slit open the second time. You had to get in fast to save you, right? And he said, like, you are the poster child for. So they gave me a bunch, right, when I went home. And I was on them. But about a week after or soon out, and people were like worried that, look, these things are very highly addictive. And I can see why. They're addictive. They take you away from the pain. They take you away from everything, right? But within a week, look, I had this book coming out. That I had this book I was working on, and I had to review the galleys. I had to go word by word, and actually, like, the comic, because only the writers obsessed enough to go, at least as myself. I'm obsessed.
I got to pause you. You're not an average writer. This is amazing. This is poetry. The chapters, each one stands alone as a poem, and I don't just say that. You have really worked to hone your craft.
Thank you. I have, man. I've given it everything. Thank you. So this actually helped pull me through that, because I'd created something special that I had to put out to the world. I owed it to the world to give it my best. So I could not be on narcotics and review the galleys because my mind was slippery. Yeah. My mind was very slippery, right? Like, I needed my mind to be sharp. So I immediately just went off the narcotics. I was like, you know what? And I actually even coined it, and some people got mad at me. I was like, look, purpose is bigger than pain. I have this book that I have to get out to the world. It's special, right? I've seen what the original version did to people, right? I've met people whose lives it saved, right? This one is off the charts, and I owe it to this book. And that's actually something that's really helped me come through this, honestly, is like having something that I care about more than my pain, right? That's like that I got to do, that I got to be my full self for. And that's actually been a very interesting lesson in there too, is like, if we have things that we truly care about, that's our expression, that's our thing, the other stuff, we throw it aside. Like, I didn't have time. Also, I got to be living what I write about. So I can't be sitting around feeling sorry for myself. The whole book is about loving yourself. So I was actually doing the work. Yeah.
So let's go from there. I'm gonna take you back in time. We're gonna go a little Wayne's World time machine. Yeah. We're gonna take you back.
Wayne's World.
Yeah, absolutely. Party time. Excellent. What was the the original bursting of the artery, so to speak, that sent you down this whole path of loving yourself? Actually, really, what it did is bring you to your knees. What was that? Can you describe that for us?
Yeah, that was in 2011? So my, my background is I was building startups, and this startup that I'd built on my own and that I'd like self-funded for years and finally took money and everything was doing really well, and it blew up. And I kind of blew up with it. I lost everything, and I was really at bottom. And that was actually one morning I woke up unable to take it anymore. And I sat down and I wrote a vow in my journal, and it was a vow to love myself. And I don't know where that vow came from, because I was not someone who believed in loving yourself. I thought it was just like another new agey thing or whatever, something you just say, tongue in cheek. but I made a vow, and I really believe in the fundamental power of commitment. If you commit to something, you can figure it out. You can do anything, but you got to commit. And so I commit. That vow was a commitment to myself. And so then I had to set out and figure out how to do it. And so then I just worked in my mind, tried things. Tried things until I started them, saw what worked, what didn't, and just started doing it until my mind shifted and I shifted, my life shifted. And
what was the
please
pain? What was so? I'm going to double everything back to a
go
couple
for it.
months ago here, and to the narcotic, non-narcotic even, which is I think you'd seen a friend go through suicide. You'd been a soldier yourself. You'd lost people.
Yeah.
How did you handle the pain to say, I'm not going to just check out of here, which is quite the graphic cover on the first version of this book. I'm not going to check out of here. I'm actually going to dive into it, which is what you did. You said purpose is greater than pain. You dove into it. You brought light to it rather than trying to push it away.
Well, I'll be honest. Checking out was very tempting, and I came closer than I feel than I care to admit. But I came close, but something I've learned. It's the checking out thing. That's an old pattern. Like if you ever gotten close to it in your life, it's almost like an addiction. I talk about in the book. It's like a mental addiction that you got to watch out for. That's why I'm a big believer in creating these mental loops that serve us rather than the ones that don't. So if the old ones come up, because life will sometimes hand you something you're not a fan of. If they come up, the new ones just put it aside. I have lost friends to suicide. It's been terrible. It was terrible each time. But I don't know what it was. It was that vow. It was making that commitment to myself that just changed everything, because I had to live that vow. And if I could share one thing with people is like, if you can just train yourself, teach yourself the power of making commitments to yourself, you start doing it and you start realize just how transformative that is. It can be in your health, your finances, your relationships, your internal self, because you got to keep it. Then you don't get lazy. Otherwise we start new things all the time. The new year, start new diet, new this. How will 6 months later, will you still be doing it? Well, if you make a commitment and revisit that commitment every day and understand to yourself the power of what you just did making that commitment, you will.
Woohoo! You said to love yourself with the same intensity you would use to pull yourself up if you were hanging off a cliff with your fingers.
Yeah, that was what originally happened. I don't think one needs it that badly anymore, honestly. That's what was the original. I just went at it hard.
Yeah.
I don't think one needs that level of intensity, but if you got it, it's going to happen really fast. The more intensity you put in emotions and thoughts, the faster your mind goes that way. Naturally.
It's interesting because I've seen the evolution of you. We've met a few times over this 4-year period. And there's a mantra that I use, which is called, which came after either my first or second NDE, kind, gentle, easy, good. I want all lessons to be kind, gentle, easy, good. And you have softened into that. You had a fierceness before that you're an achiever to an extreme, but you're taking it more from a gentleness, from a heart, from a flow. There's an image of your bush at the end, which is almost killed. It's out of water, and it's got 2 leaves up in the shape of a heart. That's what you're bringing to things now.
Yeah, I mean that's a personal evolution. It's funny how sometimes we keep on relearning the same lessons again and again, but just deeper. And I love the fact that you've actually changed your belief, because I've actually attacked things in my life. Attacked in the sense that if I want to get better or something, I just attack it. And you realize, there's a price you pay for that too. Versus you can also go at the same thing gentler. You can get the same lessons through love, through joy. It's actually something I've been thinking about a lot lately after having gone through this experience, because I don't want to repeat it.
Kind, gentle, easy, good. I am listening. That's like my mantra. And if I stub a toe or I had a couple small incidents this fall, I'm like, all right, let's step back. What's going on? It's kind of the Louise Hay, the body speaks first with whispers. I am listening, and I will dive into my work, which I use a process called automatic writing. I will dive in like nobody's business and say, what is the lesson that I get to get here before the volume gets to be
Oh,
turned up.
that's smart. That's really smart. I think there's Oprah also says something, and I'll always quote Oprah. I'm the biggest fan. Like when she says, like, life will first whisper to you, then it will say, and then it'll nudge you, then it'll be louder until then it'll just smack you upside the head. It's your choice when to listen.
Yeah.
You know, I've had a bad habit of waiting to be until I was smacked upside the head. I think that was, um, something else I've learned. Like, we carry patterns with us, right? But these patterns, they're not set for life. If you're unconscious about it, they are.
Mhm.
But if you start getting conscious about it, stop watching out for them, they shift really quickly because you realize, I don't want to be that way. I think this experience has really been a wake up call for me because it was painful, it was messy. I don't think it was needed, but I got it, and but I got it. What am I gonna do with it? That's another thing I fundamentally believe in. It's a belief that I've actually put in myself. Whatever I go through, I'm gonna come through it better. So, like, what am I gonna be better from this and apply it, right? And so that's actually one of the things I'm applying is like belief systems. I'm really working my own internal beliefs about how I grow and who I am, and just walking around more feeling gratitude and keeping that feeling of gratitude. It's a beautiful feeling to feel.
Is there a mantra that you're using? So in Kamal version 2.0, which is you when you went to a place of love yourself, you're saying, I love myself, I love myself, I love myself. Well, now going to a state of gratitude, is there something you're repeating to carve that new groove in the record, to make it so that the brain does that on autopilot?
I'm actually doing something I wrote about in the extended version where I actually like really break down the nuances,
Yeah.
which is which the version was missing. Yeah, sorry, I just banged on the table.
It's all good. I love your enthusiasm, Kamal. If you need to bang on it all, you do it.
Thanks, man. Is that whatever I'm layering into my mind, for example, love for myself. When I breathe out, right? I'm breathing it in, right? But when I breathe out, thank you. So thank you is being woven into whatever I'm putting in, because that's with the in breath. With the out breath is gratitude for it. So to the point where it's like I'm walking around like gratitude is becoming a natural state. Mm-hmm. So I'm not necessarily so I'm finding myself just walking around feeling gratitude, for nothing. I mean, which might as well say nothing or everything, just for existing. Yeah.
And I would say it is for everything because you have been there. You have been right to the edge. And so to me, when you come back from being to the edge, everything is candy. Everything. It doesn't mean life is easy. Let's not say that. And it doesn't mean there's not a hell of a lot of pain. But you're like, wow, this is cool. That's cool. On some level, God, that hurts, but that's cool too. I get to experience this. I have a gift, an opportunity. The trick is, I'm hearing in my mind, to be careful with that, because you can actually take the gift and you can go back into old patterns and hit the gas pedal to the floor saying, I now need to do. But instead your do is now gratitude.
Yeah, it's a feeling, man. It's a feeling to walk around and just feel. And look, if that's my internal state, my life is gonna reflect that. I fundamentally believe that. I've seen that true again and again. I just accept that to be just a way the whole thing works.
So we're talking about energy here, and in a sense, we're talking about how our internal state or our internal energy, whether it's love, whether it's gratitude, can change everything. In fact, you talk about early on how a month into your experiment, when everything had been crashing around you, now that you're cranking up that internal self-love, everything is changing. What was taking place?
Look, I lost my company, which actually was fine because I ended up it led to the book. I ended up writing this book, and this book actually, I've been while I was building startup companies for a long time. At nights, I'd be writing and studying the greats and teaching myself to be a writer. Mm-hmm. And I was collecting rejection letters from agents, which got better over time. And then I ended up writing this little book because I ended up writing with heart. I'd learned the craft, but I wasn't writing with heart, right? And I wrote this book with all heart, and it took off. Literally within a month, it was the #1 self-help book on Amazon, no marketing, and it's gone to sell tons of copies, and that's the original version. And it put me on the map as a writer, right? Which is what I truly wanted, and then so it also led me to go on and do what I really wanted to do, which was invest in startups. I was tired of building startups. So then I built my own venture firm, and now I'm the guy who invests in startups. Um, it gave me all this magic. And it made that happen pretty easy and naturally. And it brought people in my life that I never could have brought on my own. And things just started to, the weird thing is life just started to work. That's all it was. Life just started to work.
When we start saying, I love myself, it is very easy to feel like a fraud. It is very easy. I described, I believe, in our first interview, how when I went through this years earlier myself, I did it in front of a mirror, which you have in here, but I did it as step number 1, which was maybe a bit too soon. And I destroyed the bathroom. I took a shower curtain rod down. It was a complete violation. Subconscious didn't agree. I smashed the mirror, went after, whatever cabinets there was, and it did my best to destroy it because I wasn't accepting it. When people pick up, I didn't have your book. This was years before that. The amount of heart that you put in here and the amount of being genuine and honest and true, you are a wayfarer with a light saying, let me show you the way. You don't have to believe it at first. It's okay if you feel this pain at first. Just keep doing it. Keep going for it. And the amount of that heart that you put in there, I think in essence, I don't know other way to put it, it's as if you're doing CPR on somebody, helping them get it going, and they're knowing they're not alone in this.
Well, thank you. Look, it's what I did was share one man's truth, one man's journey, something he figured out, and just step by step how to replicate it. But one thing also was like in this newer version, I'm just harping on it because there's a reason why I wrote the newer version. I go into the nuances about how to actually do it step by step, so you don't have to go break the shower curtain and the mirror, because the things that come up, right, where. No, because I went through these nuances and I've tried these and I've also talked with a lot of readers who apply to see what works for them, and fundamentally it's the same thing. So it was like, look, start with this, then this will probably X and Y will probably come up, go through that, then do the next thing, and this will come up, and then do the next thing, and go through this, and boom, before you know it, you were just humming, right?
Woohoo!
Yeah, but it takes commitment. That's like if we're going back to what we were talking about earlier, you got to commit to this. You got to commit to loving yourself, or whatever it is, anything great in life. You got to commit. And then you start to do follow whoever's path you want to follow. This is my path. This is what I've done, right? And apply it and really live it. And that's where magic happens.
So let's go through the 4 steps here, and we'll talk about some of the nuances that I've noted, but anything that comes up to you that's important, please stop us.
I'd rather be a little careful about that, because that's one of the reasons why I wrote the expanded book, because there were so many nuances. Yeah. So if we just roll out the 4 steps, and there's a lot more of this than just 4 steps, as in the part 2 of the manual, right? And that's because I don't want people to get stuck. Yeah. People will try something, this, that, and then they'll get stuck, right? And so we can go over them happily, right? Yeah. But I'm with a fair bit of warning. It's go read it and find the nuances. It'll really help you do it right. There's a reason why I've completely opened myself up and shared this, the second time around.
I couldn't agree more. So we're going to put that caveat right here, that what we're giving you is a taster, a primer, a beginning maybe, but get the book.
Well, look, get something and go all in on it, whether it's this book or something that improves your inside, something that practically improves your inside. That's the main thing. But in this one, if we say the first steps, right, I will say the first step is, and I guide you through this, is you got to make a vow to yourself. You got to commit to yourself. Yeah. Then the second one is an exercise I do for self-forgiveness, and it works. Okay, it works because you gotta let go of the past before you can love yourself in the future, right? So you're not carrying all that whatever crap around, and it's a simple exercise, but it works. It works beautifully, right?
Now, I'll go over this real briefly because I teach people on air something similar. You're going to write down all the junk. Do you like them to shred it? Do you like them to wrap it around a stone and throw it into the water?
Look, I always have liked wrapping around a stone and throwing in the water. And I really write down, I forgive myself and I say for all the things, and I keep on writing that down and I feel it until I'm done. Until I also feel the weight of what I've been carrying with me. That's really important. You got to feel you got to be done with it. right? And realize it's just garbage weight that you're carrying. It's your choice is to let it go. And so you're letting go in that paper, and when you're done, really done, you destroy it. You can flush it down a toilet. I don't think it really matters. It's it's the intention. It's the letting go of it. I'm done. That weight is gone, right? And so there's nuances in this, I'll warn you, but that's fundamentally the primer on it, right? And you let it go, whether you will throw in the ocean, whether you set it on fire, it really doesn't matter. You're letting it go. So that's the next step, right? Then after that, you build a foundation. The foundation, first thing you do is you build a foundation of light and breath, and the concept of light and breath and feeling and love for yourself. You got to combine thoughts and feelings. Now, this seems strange at first, especially if you're not feeling it, especially if you're in a down place. But remember, it's like neurons that fire together, wire together. Yes. It's a fundamental thing in neuroplasticity. So this is not let's just, if we were to just stick with basic biochemistry, right? How the brain works. So the more you start to feel an emotion and a thought and do it again and again, the more it becomes habitual. Most of our thoughts and come from like old habitual patterns and feelings anyway, right? The more, what's interesting is as you start to do this love thing, also the thoughts that come out that arise from this pattern are actually more loving, just an expression of that thought. So that's the first thing. The second thing is there's a meditation in there that I add. It's very short. It's like 7 minutes long, that you just do to a piece of music that you anchor this to, using the same concept. The third is doing this in front of a mirror as you jump forward.
And I'll pause you on the meditation, which is brilliant. That one of the things that you're doing in setting people up for success is you have them listen to the same piece of music each time, because sort of like a shamanic practice, you're getting into ritual, which gets you into a state.
Gets you into state, right? And so like basically what happens is like the moment you hear that piece of music, next time you're meditating, you go there. And there's something about this that's deeper than just doing this mental loop yourself. When you're meditating, and I layer in the concept of bringing light and feeling light and breath and gratitude and how to do it.
Let me pause it. Finish what you're saying. I've got to come back to light. I keep on wanting to come back to light because this is something that you originally didn't blow out as much, but is so critically important.
Yeah. And so there's basically the meditation, which is like 7 minutes out of your day, and then there's questions I ask myself throughout the day, because we get caught up in habitual loops. So like if I'm in a certain, the first question I started asking myself is, if I love myself, what would I do? Now the thing is, questions can transform your life. Most of our thoughts are usually, if you think about it, just answering a question. And unspoken question, but if you really dig down, it's just a question of asking yourself, especially fear, especially anything that drives this, right? It's a question of asking yourself. And so if you put the word if in front of the question, then it takes away all the pressure. It's theoretical. If I love myself, what would I do? So you start making better choices, or if you don't do them, at least you're not doing it you're doing it consciously. You start to understand how much of your life and how your thoughts and your actions actually can be conscious rather than unconscious. So the question is a pattern interrupt. And so that's fundamentally the four main things. And there's other things I've added to really take this that I do consistently, habitually, which is like I will stop throughout the day for 10 breaths. Only for 10 breaths, because we're going to breathe throughout the day anyway. You're not going to stop breathing, right? 10 deep and purposeful breaths where I go in and layer in those thoughts and feelings with light and with breath again. And just throughout the day, I'll be walking around, standing outside. I'll be in the gym in between sets, 10 breaths. And what you're doing is you're making yourself feel this, making yourself be it. When you be in that state, your thoughts and your feelings and your emotions and ultimately your actions in your life arise from that state. So that's a very, very condensed version of the core practice. There's more I've added to it. Like, for example, especially after reading this book, it's no secret I had a pretty rough childhood, right? And a lot of things that, people can knock off, or this, I'm screwed up because of this, that. I'm like, tick. But I look at this like that's not an excuse. What it is, I can either be a victim or I can be a hero. Yeah. I want to be the hero. Same story. If you look at heroes, they go through a lot of shit in a movie, but it's like they step up to the challenge. They don't fall into woe is me, or if they do, they get out of it, right? So I've used this same practice to deal with to actually overcome a lot of the childhood issues I was carrying with me. that has still come up, and now it's becoming more automatic. Where boom, I just go right to that because of the work I've done and how I apply it. It's almost become automatic that when the child issues come up, I just shifts to that. And ultimately, like, no matter where we've been through, no matter what we've been through, we're human beings with human minds, still feeling the same core things, right? The scenery is different, right? But the core things are the same. So as long as we work, using the core concept of love, which is such a primal thing, it's like what came up when I was basically dying, love and fear. And like real primal, that was it. Those are the two things that came up. That was it. The rest were and images and thoughts and feeling and different versions of it, but that was literally it. So if we can just go to what the primal thing is, it's going to transform us. It's going to rewire us, and we're going to spend more time out of that primal fear place and into the love place.
When I want to go to surrender here for a moment, it's kind of doubling things back. Blood is squirting out of you.
Spraying. It was actually spraying, not even squirting. It's insane.
All the practices, it seems, on some level. There's practice time and there's game time. You're in game time, Kamal.
Oh, I was in the ring, man. It was like round 8. I was in the ring. And you know what? The practices go out the window. When it's primal, man. Yeah. You're just in it. There's nothing. It's almost like I know enough science. I have a degree in science as well to be dangerous, not to be accurate, but to be dangerous.
Yeah.
Be semi-accurate. So it's like basically your neurocortex shuts off. It's your primal brain that kicks in, and those moments is pure survival, and then realizing like this may be it. Then the neurocortex kicks in a little bit when the doctor came out. I was like, fix this. Don't make me go through nothing. But then goes back to it's literally. That all goes out the window. It's before and after your brain kicks in again and you can do those things like when I came out of it. The decisions I made when I was in the hospital, how I was going to feel, who I was going to be to the staff, right? But in the moment, there's Buddhist monks who, like there's traditions that practice all the way just preparing for the moment of death. Let me tell you, there was nothing pretty about mine getting there. There was nothing pretty happening. Like there was nothing pretty inside me happening. It was like just love and fear, very primally.
But the fact that you're saying there was love along with fear means something pretty was happening.
I don't know, man. It was messy.
All right.
I don't recommend it. I don't recommend it to anyone.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. No. We do not need the 2x4. If you're listening to this, you do not need the 2x4. I surrender. I am listening. What is light? This is a big theme that came up in this book. What does light have to do with anything? Because when you come to the breath, you're talking about going to light. When I was laying there dying out in a creek bed, I was breathing in light and sending out love, and that's why when they got to me and I had no blood pressure, I was still alive, which they were in that same freaked out situation. Although I got a moment of reprieve. I was begging for anything. I don't do pain meds typically. I'm begging for anything. And one of the rescue workers grabbed, he said, I can only give you this tiny little shot of something. And he went spritz of this, whatever it was, not Novocaine, whatever, morphine. And it hit the firefighter behind him in the eye. And he said, I've been hit. He goes, I've got a lazy eye. And I'm dying laughing at this point.
Funny. That's really funny.
And that helped keep me going. But what can you tell us about light?
Light is a concept that came up when I was originally doing the practice. I noticed that when I made myself feel light coming from above. And it was in the meditation that I go into more in the details about just feeling light from all the universe and galaxies and stars just flowing into me. And you start to do that, you notice that there's something there. We're wired for it. We're wired for light. We are. And so this is also using things that we're wired for, right? And I just noticed that it made things easier. That when you feel light going into you, calm something inside of you. So I just went deeper and deeper into it until light became the whole concept of feeling light in, became a fundamental part of the practice. And so you're feeling light and love, and it's with breath, it's with focused moments, it's with the question you're asking yourself. and it just starts to rewire you from the inside. You know, it takes persistence, and another thing is like if you stop doing it, your brain does fall back to older patterns. They've been layered in over a lifetime. You don't go back where you were, and the longer you do this, the more you work on yourself, the more this just becomes the pattern your brain just falls back to automatically. Yeah. But if you're going through rough stuff in life and you stop taking care of your inside, you will tend to go back to the old patterns, which is one thing I harp on this book, and I show you how I went back to. The guy who wrote the book, right, ended up falling apart 6 years later because I hadn't been doing it. I hadn't been doing it for over a year, and then I went through a bunch of rough stuff, and it just added up until I kind of lost it, and then I had to rebuild myself on my inside. So that's one of the big things I share is like, look, don't learn from my mistakes. To be consistent.
My guess, and I have no way of knowing for sure, is that everybody in the self-help genre has had similar in their own way experiences. I don't think somebody makes a decision and then doesn't start to get, quote, lazy or start to forget or go back into old patterns or stop using the tools that they knew. That's part of the journey. You were just brave enough to share it, which is so important. I'm going to keep coming back to this because in the self-help world, it is so easy to go, I read the book, now I'm not doing it, and then to really beat ourselves up.
Yeah. This one, man, whoever reads it is going to do it. It nails it. And it's written also, the way I write, I layer in concepts throughout in a certain way that's almost hypnotic. I spend a lot of time working on rhythm and bringing concepts back in a certain way. So like by the time you're done, you are actually going to be working on loving yourself. I pretty much guarantee that. It's done. There's a lot of craft that also goes into this book.
So a couple last things, and then I've got to let you go here. We're going to keep this conversation going, though.
Yeah,
and we're rekindling a friendship. I'm very excited for it, and I know that right now, because at 2 months in, I was still somewhat laying on the couch, which means after I almost bled out internally. So I know that you are. The most beautiful, profound lessons are still just starting to seep into your existence. And if you're already here, man, this is kind of cool.
Thank you, man. Thank you. And I love your new belief, man. Just good, kind. I'm going to add joy. I think I'd like joy, lessons through joy.
Yeah, it's you can have it. You really can't have it the easy way or the hard way. Or to use one of my wife's most private experiences, we're there with a shaman, with the vine, experiencing an ayahuasca journey. She's laying on her side, and I see her kind of transform into a indigenous elder, someone from the Amazon. And whether I heard it out loud or heard it in my head, and then she shared it with me later, she said, "How many times do you need to go through this way?"
Wow.
In other words, how many times do you need to be ripped apart and dismembered before you find a kinder and gentler way to learn these life lessons?
That's profound, man. That's beautiful.
So
absolutely beautiful.
Couple last things, and I'll let you go. First off, before we find out where to get your book, how important is giving love?
Look, it's not even important. It's part of loving yourself. When you love yourself, you give love. It's like you don't have to worry about giving love, man. It's like you love yourself. That becomes your state. That's where you arise from, right? So it's just a natural expression of you. Like I'm considered a very loving person. I've always been a loving person, but once I really started my love myself practice, it took it to a level that's special. Right. And it's not that I'm sitting there thinking about giving love. It just becomes a natural thing. If you're love inside, it's gonna come out of you.
Woohoo! Where can people go to find your beautiful book, to find out more? Anywhere fine books are sold these days, online or offline. And this book's gonna be out all over the world. And I hope you buy it. I hope you enjoy. I hope it serves you. And my email address is in the book. If you have questions, email me. I'll
always get back to my readers, sometimes later than normal, because I get a lot of emails. But online, you can just find me the usual spaces: Twitter, Instagram, and yeah, just email. And this book will be everywhere. I'm pretty excited and scared and nervous and grateful.
Everything to gain, everything to gain, everything to gain. You put your heart and soul and poop in it.
And what?
Poop in it.
Well, my own internal shit, yeah. But everything in there serves the reader. That's something I fundamentally believe. Every word has to serve the reader. So if there's poop in, I don't remember poop, but if there is, it serves the reader.
No, it's the internal poop. It's the internal poop. I can't believe we're having this conversation, Kamal.
Why not, man?
All right. Any last words of wisdom?
Look, I don't know what wisdom this is, whatever, but I'm amazed that when you remind me that was your episode number 1, and now you're 1200s. That is the secret to success. I've gone on and look, for example, look at Joe Rogan, right? Mm-hmm. Huge podcast, right? Impressive as hell. I love his podcast. I went and watched his first few episodes. Go watch his first few episodes versus now and look at the confidence and the level of his questioning and who he is versus in the beginning. Same thing with you. I've seen your evolution over the years. That is literally the secret to success, is consistency, going at it, improving your craft, whatever your craft is. That's all it is. And I'm doing that with loving myself. I'm learning more and more, so which goes in the expanded version, and I'm learning new things, which will probably come out in a different book. It's always just consistency, persistence, persistence. And it all comes through commitment, and that is the secret to success and the secret to change, to internal change, which is the most important change of all.
That is a whole nother theme that can be blown out, and it started back with your writing. You're talking about honing the craft of you. That's what you're really talking about.
It's alchemy. You're trying to convert lead into gold. What happens is you're the one who transforms.
I love it.
I like it too.
Woohoo! Well, thank you so much, Kamal. I want everybody, I'm like, why don't you get a stack of books? I wonder what would happen if you give a book to somebody and you say, love yourself like your life depends on it. How are they going to take it? I'm going to say, why not? Why not? Hand it out to everybody there. It's a game changer. It was early on in my process, understanding this and fighting the demons, because I didn't have a roadmap like you provide people, fighting the demons that were saying, you're a screw up, you're worthless, you're a piece of doo-doo, to say the least, you don't even deserve to be here, on and on it goes, which was my journey and coming out of my beautiful childhood as well. We all have them. So, right. And thank you for sharing on yours. But if we get this concept, how much will our world change? And if we could give this to our leaders and we help heal the wounds of those around us, which means it's an inside job to do it with ourselves first, how much would the world change?
Yeah, well, it starts with the self. All starts with the self, and then we can't help. I mean, why did I write the book? Because I had to share what worked. We can't help but do it, and that's how the world is better. You start with yourself, you make yourself better, then you share what worked for you. And it has a ripple effect that goes way beyond anything you can ever imagine.
Amen to that. So for everyone out there, this is Michael Sandler saying, be well, have fun, love yourself. Why I tripped this over, I don't know. Love yourself like your life depends on it, and begin loving yourself up and cultivating the craft of you today, and shine bright. Woohoo! Thank you so much, my brother.
Oh my God. I have seen your evolution now as an interviewer as well. Because this is my third time on?
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, it's really, I mean that, it's freaking impressive. You blow my mind with 1,200 episodes. That I can just imagine the work that goes into that, the preparation, and then the setup. I mean, it's not easy. And then the connection with every person who's different and creating value out of that for the audience. Like for me, it's got to serve the reader. For you, it's got to serve the listener. Mm-hmm. right? And that's remarkable. I am so impressed. Like, I'm inspired, man. I'm actually the Inspired Nation, but I'm genuinely inspired. Like, I am genuinely inspired. Like, I can't wait to see where you're going to be 2 years from now. Because at some point you're going, what happens? We go like this, and it just hits.
Yeah.
But you go through this, right? And then it just, boom, by that hockey stick.
I just had the most beautiful, heart-opening, heartwarming interview with Kamal Ravikant on Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It. To check out more incredible, heartwarming, heart-opening, life-changing, and transformative interviews, click here, subscribe below, and be sure to click on the bell icon so you're notified of our next show.